Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Secretary and Mr. Chairman, for being here. Madam Secretary, when you were here last, and we all look forward to you coming, I asked you to tell me what you thought inflation would be at the end of this year, and you told me 2%. Do you still stand by that prediction?
Clearly, inflation this year is going to be above 2%. Just the experience so far this year makes that clearly true. But I think we are seeing monthly inflation rates taper off.
Yes, ma'am. What do you think it'll be at the end of the year, if not 2%?
Probably closer to 4%.
Okay.
And that's already almost must be the case based on what's happened this year. But in my estimation, there are the types of supply bottlenecks that the economy.
I don't want to spend too much time on inflation, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have so little time, and I talk slowly. What party controls the House?
The Democrats.
What party controls the Senate?
The Democrats.
I believe we can agree that President Biden is a Democrat.
I believe.
Okay. Senator Schumer, who's a Democrat, and my friend, controls the Senate floor. And he can raise the debt ceiling by just amending the budget resolution, can't he?
It's possible that that could be done.
Yes, ma'am. So why didn't he do it? Why don't y'all do it?
Because
and then
this
we
is,
don't, let me
because
just
this
finish.
is.
Let me just finish. Why don't y'all just do it and then we don't have this fight?
Because
why do you insist on doing it the hard way?
Because it's very important to recognize that raising the debt ceiling is about paying bills that Congresses have incurred in the past, and it's a shared responsibility.
So why don't you?
Democrats
I agree with that. So why don't you just amend the budget resolution?
Democrats have provided votes in the past when both houses of Congress are controlled by Republicans, when the Republican Party was in the middle of reconciliation. Right. 2017 is a good example, and Democrats pitched in to do their duty to raise the debt ceiling.
But I know all that, and and I appreciate your perspective. But let me ask you again. There's a real simple solution. Why don't y'all just amend the budget resolution? It just takes 50 votes by my Democratic friends and the Vice President. Why don't you just do that? Problem solved. Done. Easy peasy. Finish. Let's go have a cocktail.
Well, it will be up to the leadership of Congress to.
Are you going to recommend that he do that?
We will confer with them on what is the best strategy to move forward.
Yeah. It's not often, I haven't been around this place as long as you have. But it's not often around here that we have a problem that has an easy solution. And this is a real easy solution. And I get politics. I understand why politically you folks want to have Republican fingerprints on the spending fiscal knife. I get that. But do you really, is your politics so important that you want to gamble here on the sovereign debt of the United States when you have a very, very simple solution that you refuse to take?
I want to see that the debt ceiling is raised. As I've said, I believe it would be catastrophic not to do so. But I equally believe that deficits have been run under both Democratic and Republican administrations. It's important to recognize that, and that means that paying the bills for those deficits is a shared responsibility, and it should not be the responsibility
I agree
of
with
any
that.
one party.
Very eloquently put. But it's a fact, isn't it? That you and your folks just want Republican fingerprints on the Democrats' effort to tax, spend, and regulate America into Europe. Now, it's your prerogative to do that. But this is all about the administration's desire to have Republican fingerprints on it and later call it bipartisan. And you know that, Madam Secretary, with all the respect I can muster, and so do the American people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy, I rarely speak between witnesses, but I wonder if Secretary Yellen takes you up on the offer to go get a cocktail, if you would pay or you'd skip out on paying the bill and expect Secretary Yellen to pay. Senator Menendez is recognized from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had not intended to pursue this line of questioning, but I must say my distinguished friend and colleague from Louisiana always sparks my interest. Republican fingerprints were all over the tax cuts to the wealthiest people and corporations in America to the tune of $2 trillion. Republican fingerprints for the many years that they were in a majority were all over the budget spending that was unpaid for. Republican fingerprints are all over the politics of this now. When Democrats were in the minority, Democrats did the fiscally responsible thing. They voted with Republicans to recognize the debt that had already been inherited. Not a debt to come, but that which had already been inherited. You all created a significant part of this debt, and now you want to walk away from it. Now, I know that President Trump was the king of debt and bankruptcy, and maybe you've adopted that as your view, but it is not a view in the national interests of the United States. So I love that my friend sparks my concerns. In any event, let me turn to my real purpose here. We have discussed at length how diversity remains a problem at both of your agencies. Chairman Powell, during your tenure, the number of minorities in management positions have barely budged. In the most recent report, the Fed's Office of Minority and Women Inclusion states, quote, the Hispanic participation rate in our workforce has remained steady over the past 5 years. Steady. Well, when it's already pretty dismal, steady doesn't really do very much for me. We recognize that our prior efforts, it goes on to say, have resulted in minimal progress. So my question is, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? And then let me just make this a joint question. Secretary Yellen, I see the same thing happening at Treasury. I've raised this from the date of your confirmation proceedings to most recently. I'm really chagrined that I have to be forced to consider not voting for nominees because it's the only way to get the attention of these agencies. But if you're sitting as one of the few Hispanic American senators and seeing what is coming forth from this administration, especially in these two sectors, it's abhorrent. So what are we going to do about it? Chairman?
So let me start briefly by agreeing that if you look at successful organizations in the United States, private and public, you will almost always see a successful approach to diversity, a focus on diversity from the top. So I think it really starts with making diversity a high priority. I have done that. My predecessors have done that. If you talk to any of our senior leadership, the people who do the hiring, the people in all the divisions, you will see that they talk about diversity, that they focus on diversity in hiring.
But if it's not high priority, it's a dismal failure. I mean, I hear high priority, but, you know, the proof is in the pudding. And it's just not there. So I don't know how high a priority it is when we continue to have the same types of numbers. Madam Secretary?
Senator Menendez, I would say that it is a high priority at Treasury with respect to political appointments that I've been involved with. We are very focused on recruiting and hiring Latinos, and we've been engaging with Latino interest groups to identify and source candidates. Just over the past several weeks, we've extended 3 offers to Latino candidates, including 2 Latinas who will serve in leadership roles within the Department of the Treasury, and we'll announce those soon. In hiring within the department as a whole, we track very carefully the demographic composition of our workforce, and it is a high priority to improve diversity. Every Treasury Bureau has a partnership with Hispanic-serving institutions and Hispanic community organizations. We have employee...
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but